Breaking now, April 22nd, 2026. The shield has collapsed, the buffer has disappeared, and the clock has started on the complete clinical dismantling of the Sussex brand. In our previous report, we raised the ultimate question. Why did King Charles halt his terminal cancer treatment just to remain on the throne a few weeks longer? Today, we have the unsettling answer. It was never about a father's ego. It was about constructing one final constitutional firewall. Charles understood that as long as he was alive, he remained the only barrier between Prince Harry and the cold, calculated efficiency of King William V. At precisely 200 hours this morning, a coded message departed from Clarence House. The words marking the end of an era were delivered to the Prime Minister and leaders across the Commonwealth. The king is dead. Long live the king. But while the world prepares for mourning, something far more precise is unfolding behind the closed doors of Buckingham Palace. To the public, it appears to be a grieving son, but the investigative files we are following reveal something very different. A monarch who has already triggered a ruthless chain of protocols. The transition from Charles to William is not unfolding with familial warmth. It is being executed with the accuracy of a clinical operation. Within the first hour of his reign, King William V did not reach for the phone to call his brother in California. There was no attempt at reconciliation. Instead, he called the Lord Chancellor into the throne room. If you want to understand the true mechanics of power and why this transition spells disaster for Montecito, you need to stay with us for every second of this broadcast. Deploy cast subscribe button now and turn on the notification bell. We're delivering the only deep dive analysis into the hidden protocols the mainstream media won't touch. If you believe the monarchy must be safeguarded at all costs, give this video a like and share your thoughts in the comments. Is William justified in being this cold? By 2:30 a.m. While news was still spreading through global media, a team of palace security officials arrived at the Sussex correspondence office in London. They were not there to offer condolences. They came to issue an immediate seal order. Every computer, every filing cabinet, and every piece of official stationery bearing the Sussex insignia was placed under administrative lockdown. A palace insider describes a chilling exchange between King William and his private secretary moments before the order was approved. The king reportedly reviewed the Sussex household documents and stated, "Ambiguity ends tonight. There is no half in, half out in this reign. We're a streamlined firm, and we begin at the foundation." When a staff member asked whether Prince Harry should be informed, the king allegedly responded with a single cold line: he chose his residence. He can read the court circular like everyone else. This marks the end of the buffer era. For years, Charles acted as the emotional safeguard, the father who continued financial support and left the door slightly open. William has now shut that door completely and locked it from within. Under Accession Council protocols, the first 24 hours grant the new sovereign full authority to redefine who qualifies as an active member of the royal family. William is not wasting any time. The constitutional power he now holds is being applied with sharp precision. By 3:15 a.m., he had already begun a formal review of royal prerogatives. But the detail sending the Sussex camp into panic is not related to finances or security. It centers on a specific meeting held at 4:00 a.m. with the Lord Chancellor. Why would a newly crowned king within his first 4 hours of power ignore his brother's calls yet spend over an hour discussing the letter's patent of 1917? The answer is devastating. Those historic decrees define the styles and titles of the monarch's grandchildren. By revisiting these laws, William is preparing to strike at the core of the Sussex identity in California. He is positioning to ensure that titles like Prince and Princess are no longer symbolic, but tied directly to duty. Harry has already abandoned. The clock is moving. The fortress is being rebuilt, and for the first time in his life, Prince Harry is beginning to understand what it truly means to stand outside a kingdom that no longer acknowledges his name. Why did William choose a legal consultation over a family reunion? The hidden clause he has just set into motion is the first move in a complete royal purge. We are tracking the timeline of these first 24 hours as the calculated rise of King William V unfolds. Stay with us. Stay with us. These opening hours of King William V's reign will go down in history as a textbook example of precise institutional restructuring. Inside Buckingham Palace, they are already calling it the Great Realignment. As the public grieves, the new king is executing a carefully prearranged sequence of protocols that allows no space for emotion. This is the timeline of what may be the most precise and clinical exile in modern history. Hour 1. Clarence House. The instant the transition was complete, the strategic importance of Charles III's final decision became undeniable. By choosing not to abdicate during his illness, Charles preserved an unbroken vertical line of authority. William did not rise as a temporary regent. He assumed the throne as a fully empowered sovereign with a reinforced mandate. Sources inside the palace describe William's demeanor in that first hour as intensely focused. There were no urgent calls placed to California. Instead, the king reportedly told his advisors, the structure is our only priority now. Every decree must be absolute. Hour 3, St. James's Palace. The Accession Council convened to formally proclaim the new monarch. Traditionally, the monarch's brother would hold a prominent role in this moment. But as the official names were read aloud, a stark change emerged. Prince Harry's name had been removed from the list of council participants and reassigned to a different category. One senior courtier reportedly leaned in and whispered, "He's not here to sign the papers. He's here to watch others sign them." Hour 8, the digital strike. At precisely 10:00 a.m., the official royal website underwent a quiet yet devastating update. This was no error. The profiles of Harry and Meghan were repositioned with calculated precision. They were removed from the working royal section and placed under extended family. Within the monarchy's digital hierarchy, they now rank beneath lesser-known royals who have not appeared publicly in years. In today's era of global image and branding, this was the equivalent of being erased from relevance. Hour 12, the financial cutoff. At 14 cut over hours, the legal transfer of the Duchy of Cornwall was completed. For years, Charles had quietly maintained a financial lifeline, using private funds to support Harry's security and ongoing legal costs. That lifeline was severed instantly. King William's, now controlling the duchy's vast income, issued a direct order to the Treasury. The directive was unmistakable. Every informal, non-essential financial support connected to the Sussex household must end immediately. The so-called Bank of Daddy didn't just close, it was locked down entirely. Hour 18, the Frogmore Protocol. As evening settled over Windsor, the Crown Estate's legal team issued a formal notice initiating a grace and favor residency review. Because Harry no longer holds a working role within the monarchy or a permanent residence in the UK, his claim to Frogmore Cottage was officially deemed unsustainable. In just 18 hours, Harry went from maintaining a base in his home country to being, in legal terms, without residence in Britain. Hour 24, the dress code directive. The final blow of the first day came with the release of instructions for the state funeral. The Lord Chamberlain's office issued a strict dress code carrying the weight of final authority. Non-working royals are prohibited from wearing military uniform. Despite his 2 tours in Afghanistan, Harry has been ordered to attend all proceedings in civilian morning dress. As the first day of King William's reign concludes, the Sussexes are coming to terms with a harsh reality. The protection Charles once provided was the only barrier shielding them. In just 24 hours, William has dismantled every privilege Harry once relied upon. But as the king prepares for his first official meeting with the Lord Chancellor the following morning, a far more consequential legal move is already in motion. Why is William so focused on a specific royal decree from 1917? The answer strikes at the one area Harry believed was beyond reach: his children's future. This purge is far from over. The transition of power has now entered its most delicate, and most devastating phase, the targeting of the next generation. While the public remains focused on funeral ceremonies, King William V has begun ascending what insiders call the authority staircase, a three-tiered legal strategy designed to strip Archie and Lilibet of their royal future before they even come of age. This is not a personal dispute. It is the calculated use of constitutional authority, and the first blade has already fallen. At the foundation of this strategy lies the 1917 Letters Patent. Issued by King George V, this document forms the backbone of royal title law, clearly defining who is entitled to the titles of prince and princess. Under King Charles, an unspoken understanding allowed the Sussex children to retain these titles. But within the first 24 hours of his reign, William has reportedly consulted with the Lord Chancellor to exercise his sovereign authority to revise these decrees. Sources present at the meeting describe a king completely devoid of sentiment. William reportedly told his legal team, "Royalty is a privilege earned through duty, not a birthright maintained from a distance. We are redefining the circle of the firm to include only those who stand inside the fortress." By tightening the scope of the letters patent, William is effectively removing the prince and princess titles from the California branch of the family, rewriting over a century of royal precedent in a matter of hours. The second tier shifts from legal authority to symbolic identity. At 4 hours this morning, a direct instruction was issued to the College of Arms, the historic body responsible for all heraldry and royal insignia. The order was precise. Any ongoing work related to coronets or official coats of arms for the Sussex children is to be suspended indefinitely. Within the language of the court, the implication is clear. Without a registered crest from the College of Arms, a royal identity does not exist within the official record of the state. While Harry and Meghan may continue using titles in American media, the absence of formally recognized insignia means that, in the eyes of the British system, they are simply private individuals with well-known names. The king has ensured that no official documentation, no honors, and no royal registry will ever carry the names of his niece and nephew with royal styling. But it is the third tier, the quietest mechanism, that proves the most strategically devastating. William is leveraging the court circular to establish a constitutional reality. The court circular serves as the official daily record of royal engagements and statuses. By direct order, the titles His Royal Highness the and Her Royal Highness have been removed from all future references to the Sussex household. This is administrative warfare at its most refined. By simply omitting the titles, William creates a new baseline reality, one that over time becomes the accepted legal standard. When a Palisade reportedly asked whether Prince Harry should be allowed to challenge these changes, the king's response was final. The court circular records reality. If reality changes, the record must reflect it. There is no negotiation with the king's word. This approach places Harry in an impossible position. By the time any legal challenge could even be initiated, the system will have already documented and normalized the revised status of his children. William hasn't just secured victory, he has ensured there is no battlefield left to contest. Yet as Harry sits alone, reviewing a court circular that no longer acknowledges his children's royal standing, reports suggest he may be searching for one final move. Something uncovered within his father's private correspondence, something that could ignite a new crisis within the palace before the night is over. And the escalation does not end there. While public mourning for King Charles unfolds across London, a silent financial strike has already been carried out behind palace doors. This is what insiders are calling it the closed loop, a calculated dismantling of the Sussex's remaining economic support. For years, questions surrounded how Harry and Meghan maintained their multi-million-dollar lifestyle in Montecito despite a shrinking list of commercial ventures. Now, the answer is becoming clear. They were sustained by the father's buffer. As of 9 tidal hours this morning, that buffer has officially been eliminated by King William V The first phase of this financial restructuring is the automatic transfer of the Duchy of Cornwall. This estate stands as the monarchy's most powerful income source, generating over £2 million annually. Under Charles, it functioned at times as a channel for personal support, with surplus funds quietly directed toward Harry's transition, but the law is absolute. The moment Charles passed, the duchy became the private property of King William and his heir, Prince George. As a personal estate, there is no legal or constitutional requirement for the sovereign to provide financial support to a non-working sibling. A source within the duchy's administrative office described a brief but stark meeting earlier today at 10 hours when an accountant asked whether ongoing transfers to the California household should continue. The response from the king's representative was direct. The duchy serves the working crown. If an individual is not on the duty roster, they are not on the estate payroll. Close the file. The second phase is what insiders are calling a legacy audit. William is not only halting future payments, he is reevaluating the past. Every informal transfer made over the last 4 years, funds allocated for legal costs, private security, and operational expenses in the United States is now being reclassified internally as institutional waste. By framing these payments as financial misjudgments from the previous reign, William establishes a strategic layer of public justification, one that reinforces the narrative of reform while closing the door on any expectation of continued support. He isn't cutting his brother off out of cruelty. He's safeguarding the public perception of royal finances. This audit guarantees that no future advisor can recommend reopening financial support for Harry without risking accusations of fiscal irresponsibility. But it's the third step that delivers the most decisive blow, the security downgrade. For years, Harry's central legal dispute has been with RAVEC, the committee responsible for royal and VIP protection. His argument always rested on one key point: his position as the son of the monarch. That status ended the moment Charles passed. In the strict hierarchy of state security, he is now simply the king's brother. That distinction changes everything. Internal Home Office documents indicate that RAVEC has already initiated an automatic reassessment. Without his former designation, Harry is now categorized as a high-profile private individual, no different, in security terms, from an international celebrity. The result of this closed loop is brutally simple. Estimates suggest the Sussex annual security and legal expenses fall between £5 million, £8 million. Without the discreet financial backing Charles once provided, Harry is now facing a slow but inevitable financial strain. His existing media deals, Netflix, Spotify, are limited resources. They do not replenish indefinitely. In effect, William has placed his brother on a financial countdown. As the king finalizes the economic directives of his new reign, whispers are spreading through London about a particular offshore fund Charles reportedly attempted to establish for his grandchildren just weeks ago. We've learned that William's legal team has already moved to secure that account with a protective injunction, pending a full loyalty review. Why such urgency? Why such caution? The answer insiders suggest may lie in a private recording from the final meeting between Charles and William at Sandringham. Whatever was said in that room may explain the king's determination to close every possible exit, and the shadow surrounding that black box is only growing darker. Because beyond titles and finances lies the most powerful tool in King William V's arsenal: the systematic psychological dismantling of Prince Harry's identity within the royal structure. Inside palace circles, they're calling it a gaslighting by protocol, a method that uses tradition and procedure to erase a person's standing without ever issuing a direct statement. This isn't tabloid drama. It's a calculated, visual dismantling of legacy. The first and most painful strike targets the one identity Harry valued above all else: his military service. At exactly 14 hours today, the Lord Chamberlain's office finalized the dress code for the state funeral. The directive is as precise as it is unforgiving. Only working members of the royal family holding honorary military ranks may wear ceremonial uniform. When the procession begins, King William will lead in full sovereign military regalia. Gold braid catching the light, medals across his chest, the insignia of commander in chief clearly displayed. Harry, by contrast, will walk several steps behind in civilian morning dress. The message to a global audience will be unmistakable. One stands as head of the armed forces. The other appears simply as a former soldier in a suit, his decade of service and 2 tours in Afghanistan reduced to a personal history rather than an institutional role. A source within the Lord Chamberlain's office claims that a formal request was submitted for Harry to wear his Blues and Royals uniform as a mark of respect. The response from the king, delivered through an aide, was reportedly firm. The uniform represents active service to the crown, not a symbol for those who have stepped away. Protocol is the only authority now. The second strike comes through spatial design, the architecture of isolation. The seating plan for the service at Westminster Abbey has been finalized, and insiders describe it as a deliberate exercise in visual marginalization. Leaked layouts indicate that Harry and Meghan have been placed in the second row, but crucially positioned behind a large structural pillar and taller senior royals. When the ceremony is broadcast worldwide, their visibility will be minimal at best. There will be no public statement announcing the reduced status. Instead, the cameras simply won't find them. It's erasure through staging. If objections are raised, the palace can point to precedent, protocol, and tradition. Is William acting decisively to secure the future of the crown, or has the systematic purge gone too far? Share your perspective in the comments. If you want to keep receiving these deep investigative breakdowns, the kind rarely explored by mainstream outlets, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Join a growing community of royal watchers committed to understanding how power truly operates behind palace walls. But as preparations continue for the funeral of King Charles III, a new and potentially explosive element has come to light. At the center of it all is what insiders are calling the black box of Charles, a highly classified collection of intelligence files compiled during the late king's final years. According to sources, this archive contains sensitive material, including alleged details on the Marcus Anderson network and undisclosed commercial arrangements linked to Meghan Markle and prominent American financiers. And right now, King William holds control over that archive. Sources from St. James's Palace suggest the king is waiting, watching closely as the funeral approaches. If Harry makes a single misstep, attempts an unsanctioned media move, or breaks protocol during the mourning period, the box may be opened. And if it is, the consequences could extend far beyond titles or finances. It could trigger complete legal and reputational collapse for the Sussex household. Do you think William will go that far? We'll be examining the contents of the black box in our next investigative report. Stay tuned.